Hello dear viewers, a very warm welcome to our channel. It's very good to have you here. In this video, we are going to have a look at all you need to know about engine valve spring. At its most basic, a valve spring is a coil spring that performs one essential job. It closes the engine valves. Now, let's see how the valve spring manages closing of the valve. Well, the camshaft lobe pushes the valve open against the force of the spring. As the camshaft continues to rotate, the lobe moves away. The valve spring provides the force to push the valve back into its seat, sealing the combustion chamber. This happens thousands of times per minute at extremely high speed. Without a functioning valve spring, the valve would not close, leading to a catastrophic loss of compression and loss of engine power as well. Now, the valve spring's job sounds very simple, but the demands are immense. For example, it is operating at extremely high speed. At 6,000 RPM, each valve opens and closes 50 times per second. The spring must be able to compress and release at this frantic pace without failing. And the spring is required to have some control over mass. The spring doesn't just close the valve, it must control the entire valve train. Rocker arm, pusher, push rods, valve lifters, all these have to be controlled by the spring. It must prevent this mass from bouncing off the seat or floating away from the camshaft. And valve springs are operating at extreme environment. They operate in a very hot area of the engine, near the combustion chamber. Heat can cause metal to lose its temper, lose its strength. So the spring has to overcome all this. Now, when it comes to some key terminologies on spring design, there is a spring rate. Spring rate is measured in pounds per inch. This is how much force it takes to compress the spring a certain distance. A stiffer spring has a higher rate. And we have the open pressure as well. The force the spring exerts when the valve is fully open. This is the maximum load on the camshaft and valve train. We also have a seat pressure. The force the spring exerts when the valve is closed. This pressure must be high enough to slam the valve shut and keep it seated against the combustion pressure. There is a coil bind. This occurs when the spring is compressed so far that the individual coils physically touch each other. This stops the spring from compressing further and it can break it. A properly selected spring must have enough clearance to avoid coil bind at maximum valve lift. And the other thing is resonance or harmonic surge. At certain RPMs, the spring can enter a harmonic frequency where it begins to surge, vibrating uncontrollably. This causes loss of pressure and leads to valve float. Performance springs are designed and sometimes dampened to combat this. You know what valve float is? Valve float is the condition where the spring loses control of the valve tray. The camshaft, when it is spinning so fast that the spring cannot push the valve closed fast enough before the camshaft comes back around to open it again, the valve floats or hangs open. This is very catastrophic. The piston can travel upward and smash into the valve. This typically results in a bent valve, destroyed piston, and potentially a broken connecting rod or a hole in the cylinder head. This is often called valve meeting piston and requires a full engine rebuild. Valve float is the physical limit of an engine's RPM capability. High-performance valve springs are the key to raising that limit. Now, what are some of the symptoms indicating weak or failing valve spring? Well, the first one is loss of high RPM power. The engine pulls fine at low RPM but fails flat on its face as you approach the power band. This is a classic sign of a spring beginning to fail. And engine misfire is another symptom. Weak spring can cause a valve to not seat properly, leading to loss of compression in that cylinder and resulting in a misfire. Abnormal engine noise can also be an indication. A broken spring can cause a loud ticking or rattling noise from the valve cover. Backfiring. This is intake valve not closing. It can cause backfire through the intake manifold. If the exhaust valve is not closing, it can cause backfire through the exhaust. This is basically the responsibility of the valve spring to shut the valves. And Sometimes high oil consumption can also be associated with failing valve spring. If an exhaust valve doesn't close, the high pressure exhaust pulse can be forced past the valve guide seal, sucking oil into the combustion chamber. Now, what are some of the things that you can do in order to take care of the valve spring? Valve springs are a wear item, especially in high performance or high mileage engines. Spring fatigue. Over millions of cycles, springs can physically sag and lose pressure. This is called taking a set. So, when do you need to replace? If you are planning major engine rebuild, or when upgrading a camshaft. The new camshaft lift and duration will dictate the required spring. And when diagnosing loss of power or valve float. These are some key indications that it's time for valve spring replacement. Professionals use a spring pressure tester to check if a spring seat and opening pressure is still within the specification. So you can go ahead and have them tested in order to decide whether to replace them or reuse them. So the bottom line is the springs, they are very essential for your engine. Their function is to close the valve reliably and control the valve drain. They are critical importance. They are the gatekeepers of an engine's RPM limit. Their failure leads to immediate and catastrophic engine damage. The enemy is valve float. This is very catastrophic engine trouble. This is a condition where the spring loses control, allowing the valve and the piston to collide. Performance is very key. Stiffer, better designed springs are essential for high RPM operation. And the main cause of wear is fatigue. Fatigue over time, and with use, they will start losing pressure and become a liability. So the valve spring is a masterpiece of mechanical engineering, a component that must be incredibly strong, incredibly fast, incredibly durable, all while being small and lightweight. It is truly the unsung hero of high-performance engine operation. Well, dear viewers, that is all we have for you regarding your engine's valve spring. If you find this video interesting, if you like what has been presented, please do smash the like button. If you are new to this channel, consider subscribing, turn on notifications so that you will be the first to get notified whenever we come up with another video. Until then, stay safe.